Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Today we are joined by Scott from Duke Football Talk, also the host of Section 17 podcast, to talk a little Duke football. Scott, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. I got a lot of questions about this Duke team. Obviously, a tough year from last year. Taking a look, doing some prep work to talk some Duke football. They're also not returning too many guys, so kind of in the power rankings, bottom of the country. Also not returning a ton of guys. A lot of question marks. How's the fan base feeling about Coach Elko coming in here?
There's a renewed spirit.
Yeah, good.
That's one of the things that I think Coach Elko wanted to express and get the fan base behind him as an introductory press conference. And he has done everything that he said so far. And just looking at the numbers, there were a lot more people there for the spring game this year than we've had. Well, I'm sorry. This is the first time we've had a spring game in years. And there were a lot of people there to watch it, to see what they have done and what they've added. And I think it's going to be a good thing. He's still dipping his toes in the water, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the best hires. We saw a lot of coaching hires in the 2020 or leading up to the 2022 season. In Coach Elko, I mean, he's pretty much dominated wherever he's been. I'm a Wake Forest guy, so he took a Wake Forest defense that was really, really bad, bottom of the ACC, brought him back to relevance. He goes to Notre Dame, does a fantastic job there, and then did a great job at Texas A&M. So sneakily one of the better hires, I think, during the offseason. Now I'm kind of excited to see what he brings into the Duke football program that kind of started to fade towards the last couple of years. What I want to get into asking you is, starting with the offense side of the ball, what's this quarterback battle, I should say, looking like after spring practice, kind of heading into fall camp?
Yeah, it's interesting, to be honest with you. Raleigh Leonard is a throwing quarterback. He has a little bit of sneaky speed in there. Jordan Moore is more of a running quarterback. Yeah. But to be honest with you, Jordan Moore's arm, I think, has gotten better since last season, which, to be honest with you, last year we didn't get to see his arm much. He was only in there for running plays. And one of the things that we were able to do this year, kind of off the bar for a second, we were actually able to go to some of the practices. Coach Elko opened it up, and we were one of the folks that got to come and watch. So we got to see some of the progressions as the players and the team as the preseason went on, or the spring practice went on. And Moore, to me, is, if he's in the open field, he's a running back.
Yeah, he looks smooth from what I saw.
But right now, I don't even know if they have an idea of who's going to be learning Coach John's system. And he's a hands-on coach. We saw him in the first practice we went to. He was out there running patterns, doing everything, telling the guys exactly how he wanted it, where he wanted it, and all that stuff, which is great. It was awesome to see that.
I love it. One of the fewer bright spots of the Duke football team last year was Matteo Duran. One of the better running backs in the country, in my opinion, from what I saw. Obviously, I believe with the Steelers now as an undrafted free agent. What's that running back room looking like? I saw Jaquez Moore, I think, popped a little bit in the spring game. What's your feel for that running back room?
The running back room is stacked.
Okay.
And this is, and I'm not being a fanboy when I say this. They are stacked.
All right.
Number one running back, as of right now, in my thought process, and you can argue this with many people, Jordan Waters is going to be the number one back.
Gotcha.
He's got the most time out of anybody that's coming back. Jalen Coleman's going to get some run. But then you look at Jaquez Moore, who had a great spring.
Yeah, he looked awesome.
You look at Terry Moore, no relation, another young freshman running back, and a guy that didn't see a lot of the field during the spring practice, but we saw him a lot during practices, was Eric Weatherly.
Okay.
He's a slot guy, so he could be like an Edelman from the Patriots.
Gotcha.
But the guy is lightning fast. So it's going to be interesting to see, and it's actually funny. Well, not funny, but they had a running back committed. I'm sorry, I apologize. They had a running back coming for Katy, Texas, but actually saw after the spring game that there was no way he was going to get him playing time for a couple of years. He decommitted.
Got a little scared of the depth.
Yeah, it was Seth Davis. That was the running back's name.
Gotcha.
And he's a really good running back. So to see that he didn't think he was going to get much run, that's a pretty interesting thing.
Gotcha. I think that's really important to note, like having that depth in the running back room. I think Matteo Duran ran into the ground a little bit. I mean, they were just feeding him the rock. I think I watched that Charlotte game opening weekend. I mean, their offense was just turn around, hand the ball off to Duran and let him cook. And he was the best player on the field, but I feel like he might have ran into the ground a little bit. And so having that depth at that running back position is going to be massive. What about this wide receiver room? Obviously, Jordan Bobo, who I think was probably their best player outside of Durant on the field, transfers out to UCLA. What are some guys that are going to provide some more explosive nature to this Duke offense?
Well, we've still got Jalen Calhoun.
I saw him.
Who's very good very good wide receiver. He's not a running back. He's quick. He's not afraid to go over the middle, which is something you love.
Yeah, you gotta love that
from your wide receivers. They've actually had, to be honest with you, there's some really good depth here. Eli Pankel, who didn't get a lot of run during games, is one of the most athletic wide receivers we've seen. There's a video out there where he was at Duke's practice basketball gym throwing down windmill dunks. So the kid is athletic and just needs an opportunity. They never really released him and let him go. Daryl Harding Jr. is coming back. Mm-hmm. Samir Hagans is somebody who got a lot of run there. He's a young guy. He's quick. He's smart, and he has great hands. John Tavius Robinson, another guy who got some run there. And then they got two freshmen that came in. Makai Wall, who I think will get some playing time. I mean, he's really quick, really fast. And then another guy named Cash Watkins. That guy he lives up to the name. When they threw the ball in his direction, he was making cash money catches.
I love it.
So he was definitely living up to and those last two guys were freshmen. So they were just coming into camp. So it was good to see that.
So you're pretty optimistic about that wide receiver room and maybe providing a little bit more explosive plays as opposed to last year. I don't know much about this offensive line. I'm trying to do a little research on some of these guys, but how they were out of high school. How are we feeling about the depth of that offensive line and some of those guys who are going to start?
Well, to be honest with you, this is probably some of the best depth they've had in years.
That's important.
Maybe not experience per se. I mean, they do have some experience. Jacob Monk, very good. Maurice McIntyre. Graham Barton started a lot last year, played some center his freshman year. John Gillott, another good lineman. Addison Penn, I think, is going to be we think right now is going to be the center for the team.
Okay.
And then they have a guy named Ron Carr, who during spring played defense line and he played tight end. So he was that versatile.
All right.
So I don't know, to be honest with you, I know we're going to get to the tight ends probably here in a little bit. I don't know how much run he would get as a tight end, but the guy is a pretty big dude and very agile on his feet.
I mean, sometimes having some of that run blocking tight end like a Darnell Washington from Georgia, plays at 275 pounds, pretty much another tackle out there, that can help too provide a little value. Well, I like to ask this question to the guests. How many offensive linemen would you say they'd be comfortable with? Are they 7-8 guys, that 7-8 deep, you think they are?
I think 7 is strong.
Okay.
And there may be some – I still think, and I think this would hold true for all positions, there's still some opportunities coming, I think, in the transfer portal here before we get to summer ball.
You think that's a position that they could kind of beef up in?
They've been able to use it well in the past. Jack Wallenbaugh, who we joke was at Duke. He transferred from Ohio State. He was at Duke for 73 years. But guy was there 4 years. He's very good, and he just never stayed healthy long enough. But definitely versatile, and we enjoyed picking about that. But he's a great guy. He was the anchor to the line for years, and that's a good thing.
It's becoming so important. It seems like, what your starting five is, during late August, early September when you play week 1, and what your starting 5 looks like at the end of November is normally pretty different with injuries. So being able to have some depth, being able to go 7, 8, 9 deep when those injuries do happen, which it seems to happen all the time to every team on the offensive line, is important. Want to get to the defensive side of the ball a little bit too. From what I've been reading about, I mean, one of the big things they need to work on is the pass rush. I mean, 90th in the country and getting after the passer in sacks per game. Are there any guys on this defensive line that you think can bring some juice? Obviously, Mike Elko, one of the best defensive mind guys in the country, in my opinion. He's just done a phenomenal job on that side of the ball. What are some guys that you're excited about to maybe get in that backfield?
Well, Dwayne Carter, to me, is the leader of the defense. He did a great job last year. He's a guy with a motor that just will not stop. There were multiple occasions last year where he was in the backfield running after the running back. The running back or quarterback got 15 to 25 yards down the field, and he came up from behind to either make the tackle or make the strip. So the guy didn't stop, and he's a junior. He's a redshirt junior, and he's unbelievable. He's one of our favorite players. Great guy. They did a great video of him asking people to come to the spring game on the Duke site. So it was a pretty good situation. And there's a kid that we really like that thinks going to have a great opportunity is Vincent Anthony Jr. He's a true freshman, local kid from Durham, North Carolina.
Love it.
Went to local high school here. We met his dad at the spring game. His dad's super excited. He said Vincent is very excited about playing big boy. So I think this is one of the freshmen that's going to get a lot of run. Again, like Selko does a great job.
One of the things that I think is so rare, and I mean, with this guy, Vincent Anthony Jr., that would be extremely impressive is to make an impact as a true freshman. I mean, when you see guys who are 18 years old, massive for them to get some work there.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to move over. Is Shaka Hayward? He's coming back, correct, for that 5th year?
Yes, he's very impressive too. He's got the motor just like Dwayne Carter does. He's everywhere.
He seemed to be one of the leaders last year.
Yes, and I think he led. I don't have the exact number. I think he had 112 tackles. I think that's around the number it was last year.
Over 100. I was checking the stats.
He had, as a true freshman or first-year player 2 years ago, he had a bunch of tackles too, and they just threw him out there. And he stayed healthy, so that was one of the pluses. We actually got another couple of linebackers that are going to be helpful. Dorian Musey.
Okay.
He didn't play a lot last year. I think he got hurt a little bit. And then we got a kid that missed last season, Rocky Shelton, that's come back to the team. His energy, his motor is really high. So those 3 guys I think are the anchors. We've got 3 or 4 more guys that are there that have played some more, that have done some. So I think those 3 guys to me stand out. One other kid too, Trey Freeman, another local kid from Durham. He actually played a whole lot more than I thought he would at the spring game. So he played well.
So this seems to be probably one of the strengths of the defense, this linebacker unit. Want to touch on the secondary? You guys got some transfers that I kind of like. Starting with Young from Iowa State, but also I'm a Michigan guy, so Jordan Morant transferring over from Michigan. I liked him. He looked really good all spring from what I saw. He looked good in the spring game. Just couldn't really crack the depth chart. Kind of loaded there at Michigan. And you think he's going to come in and start this year?
I think so.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He to me, just everything I've read about him, he seems like him and Young may end up starting.
Yeah.
They may actually jump some of these other guys, which is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
yeah,
experience is always good. We had a little bit of Jamerrick Woods transferred from Michigan a couple years ago and came down here and played. And he played well. He just couldn't stay healthy.
Same thing at Michigan. You just couldn't stay on the field. Yeah, and that's part of it. He actually got some burn as a true freshman, which is rare at Michigan. And then was just got the injury bug, and that's too bad that happened at Duke too. How I want to close, and this is kind of what I've been doing with most of the guests, especially with Duke. I think it's interesting. What do we think is reasonable expectations for this Duke team on coming in under this first season for Coach Elko?
I would say, well, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, you're asking me the answer, not everyone else.
Yeah.
I think 5-7.
Okay.
And a lot of it's just going to depend to me upon how the offense plays.
Yeah.
If Coach John's system, if we can get it going like I think we can, there's going to be some games that we're in that in the past we would have not been in the fourth quarter, and give ourselves a chance. The first 4 weeks of the season, I think, are our friends. But after that, once we get into the conference play, the conference is a whole lot better than it has been in years past. So
that was kind of the story last year too. You guys started off pretty well playing Kansas. Obviously, dropping the one to Charlotte wasn't great, but after that, picked up some wins. Shaking that had to loss to Charlotte. That was a tough one. I was watching that one. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we actually went to that Charlotte game.
Oh,
we were super excited. The four of us rode down there, and
I had Duke 6.5. I had Duke to cover 6.5, so I was also hurting a little bit. I was just yelling at my screen, just keep giving Durant the ball. That seemed to be the only thing that was working.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's tough. Charlotte had not too bad of a team down there. Yeah. What I want to say, thank you for coming on. I think it's in my mind, from what I've been reading about Duke, you obviously know way more than me. It's going to be a process, but I do think you guys have the right guy with Coach Elko. Extremely excited about the future of Duke football. Guys, if you guys are listening, if you're into ACC football, if you're into Duke football, go check them out on Twitter, the Section 17 podcast. They do great content surrounding Duke football, and it's a new era for Duke football. So, Scott, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to get you back on to talk some more Duke football in the season. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Peace.